Good morning, sixth graders. Hope everybody is doing well today. So at this point, by the time you're watching this video, we've already done social studies. So what we did in social studies today is we got into groups and we got into groups and we did the character traits of hunters-gatherers, the IB character traits. So I will be checking those out later and we will be discussing them tomorrow as a class. Okay, so that's what you should have done today in Otis with your group. Our book talk today is a book called Mr. Terrupt, or Because of Mr. Terrupt, sorry. This is a realistic fiction book. It's really good. It's about a group of their kids in fifth grade who they're all very different. And it's one of those books kind of like Flipped that tells the story from different perspectives, only I believe it tells it from like several kids' perspectives, like 6. Okay, and so it's about this group of fifth graders, and they have a new teacher who they really like, but then something goes wrong and just what comes of that. So this is a book, I think I already said this, but it's realistic fiction. And I have had a lot of kids really, really like this book. I was when I did teach fifth grade the year before last, it was one of the insane class favorites. And then a lot of the other kids, there's a couple sequels, went on to read those in sixth grade. So I think it would be a great book for your age right now. And like I said, even a lot of kids that I've had in the past who have not been huge fans of reading really liked this book. So again, that's called Because of Mr. Terrupt. And again, I will be going to Ike tomorrow. So anyone who has requested books, if I have them, I will put them up in the office by lunchtime. And then your parents or you or whoever can pick them up after lunch. There's one other thing I was going to say. I don't remember, but please try and get any request in by tomorrow. All right. So now we are going to go to language arts, and today we are going to continue studying Flipped, only today we're going to be looking at Julie's perspective, okay? So yesterday we studied Bryce's perspective, and the whole book goes back and forth, and then for those of you who have requested it already, hopefully I have multiple copies. I haven't checked on that book in a while, but I know I used to. So I'll look and see how many copies of that I have for you. So we're going to talk about Flipped today, so go ahead. It starts on page 18 in your book, but we're going to be on page 25 for Julie's point of view or perspective. Those are kind of the same thing. Okay, so what do we know about Julie? Okay, so it says answer question 7 in your Springboard book using textual evidence. So we're using kind of the ACE formula again. We're using the evidence, the text, to support our answers. So why don't you push pause on me right now and go ahead and answer number 7 in your book. Okay, so you pushed pause on me. I am now going to do this too, but I have to say, with this, my answer is not necessarily the right answer, making your answer the wrong answer. There can be lots of different answers for this. As long as you can back your answer up with the text, it's likely to be correct. Okay, so like I said, there's not right or wrong answers here. But what I'm going to write is, I think Julie thinks that Bryce is cute because she says, and so I'm going to find evidence that shows that Julie thinks Bryce is cute. So she said, the first day, I met Bryce Losky. I flipped. Honestly, one look at him and I became a lunatic. It's his eyes. Ooh la la. Okay, it's his eyes. Okay, so that shows evidence that Julie thinks Bryce is cute. Okay, he actually turned her into a lunatic. All right. Now, yesterday, we talked about Bryce's point of view in the time that Juli and he first met. Now we're going to look at Juli's point of view. So what I want you to do is the incident that we're talking about here, which is when they first met, and then some things that happened later because of that incident. So this might take you about 10 minutes or maybe even more. So again, push pause on me and then go ahead and fill out what was it that when Juli and Bryce first met, what was the incident like according to her, and then what happened as a result of that meeting. Okay, so that I just waited about 5 seconds, but you could have pushed pause as long as you needed, so you should be finished by now. That's okay. I just realized my lighting is off today, whatever. Okay, so the incident is I was too excited. This is what Juli said about the first time they met. Not to charge across the street. Remember, her mom made her wait. But I did try very hard to be civilized once I got to the moving van. I stood outside looking in for a record-breaking length of time. Oops. Which was hard because there he was. About halfway back, I knew sure to be best friend Bryce Losky. Okay, I'm gonna go fix my mistake right there. So that is Juli's version of their first interaction. Okay. And so the response for that, like what happened as a result of her seeing things that way. Okay, and this is actually about, okay, this is kind of in, like goes along with Bryce's responses to things from yesterday. You can always go back and check that slide deck too, although I think I put the slide decks in before this was typed in. Anyway, doesn't matter. You can look at the video too. Okay, so the responses. This is like Bryce's first response to their holding hands incident. And I just went like this, but you couldn't see that. So you see, I caught up to him and grabbed his arm, trying to stop him. So maybe we play a little before he got trapped inside. And the next thing I know, he's holding my hand, looking right into my eyes. My heart stopped. It just stopped beating. And for the first time in my life, I had that feeling. Okay, so that was, we also yesterday read about Bryce's response to the hand holding, and that's Juli's. Okay, and then this is around the time that Bryce locked himself in the bathroom. This is what Juli, how she's seeing things. After that, Mom and I went home. It was very strange. Bryce, sorry. I hadn't gotten to play with Bryce at all. Okay, so she's just like, that's weird. I didn't get to play with him. She had no idea that he was not feeling her the way she was feeling him. All right. So that is that. Tomorrow you will have a assessment on Flipped. I will go over with you tomorrow morning what to expect from that and give you some hints and tips to be successful. Okay? Now, and if you need to push pause because maybe it's towards the end of second period, you can. Otherwise, we can go ahead and read The Boy of the Painted Cave. So here is that. You guys know how to access the PDF. Okay, so we are on chapter 8, page 73 of Boy of the Painted Cave. Where we last left off, Tao showed his paintings to Graybeard, who was like, no, dude, you cannot be doing this. So Tao was expecting him to be really impressed, and all he cares about, is it good? Is it good? And the Graybeard is like, no, it doesn't matter if it's good, it's taboo. And so he got pretty upset with Tao. Chapter 8. Okay, I'm going to yawn, sorry. I always yawn before I start reading. All right. The old man walked back and forth, his feet shuffling across the cave floor. He stopped at the entrance and looked out across the valley. He was still breathing heavily, but the storm within him was over. I am sorry, he said. It is a thing that must be handed down. My father was a cave painter. Now I am one. That is the way it has always been. It cannot start from nothing. He stopped his pacing and looked down at Tao. You must learn to live with things you cannot change. Tao sighed deeply, biting his lip, trying to forget. A short while later, they sat cross-legged on the cave floor, eating freshwater mussels that Tao had scooped from the creek. With sharp flint knives, they pried open the blue-black shells and picked out the soft flesh within. The smell of birch tea filled the little cave as the leather sack brewed over the open fire. They ate in silence for a while. Finally, Tao spoke. Then it can never be? The old man nodded impatiently. I tell you again, unless you are born of a leader or chosen by the elders, it would not be accepted. He opened another shell and ate the contents, washing it down with a sip of birch tea. For 1,000 summers, it has been in the minds of people and cannot be changed. And I must not do this thing I love? I must not make images? Graybeard looked out through the cave entrance, gazing off into the distance. He tugged at his beard for a moment, deep in thought. Yes, do it if you wish, but do not let the others know. They would not understand. And always rub out your images when you are finished. The old man glanced at the cave wall where he had blotted out the pictures. You have made a good beginning, he said, but you have much to learn about form and shape. You must study the animals closely. See how they look when they run or lie down. Notice the color of their fur in the bright sun or under the shadow of a tree. Graybird smiled. He had completely forgotten his outburst, and his eyes shone as he spoke. Go up on the highest plains and watch Saxon, the sacred bull. See how the heavy muscles ripple beneath his shoulders. Watch how he moves his head and remember the angry fire in his eyes. Then put it all into your image. It is something like magic, said Tao, his voice rising with excitement. The old man picked up his deerskin bag, shaking it, rattling the contents within. Here is the real magic, he said. With these graven stones, I can speak to the spirits of the animals and bring good hunting. He took out 7 flat stones, each larger than his open hand, each engraved with the figure of a different animal. He picked out one and held it up for Tao to see. On it was the engraving of a mammoth. Tao gasped. It is the mountain that walks. Yes, said Graybeard. 3 summers passed. They came through the valley, and I drew this sketch. They have not been here since. That is true, said the old man. But now, from this sketch, I can draw others on the walls of the secret cavern. I can draw line for line, making the shape exactly as it was when I first saw it. In this way, I can speak to the spirits of the great beasts and call them back to the valley. With the point of his flint knife, Graybeard began copying the picture on the dirt floor of the cave. Here, he said, first make a large outline of the whole animal. Next, find the high point of the shoulder. Then slope the back all the way down to the tail. Graybeard swung his hand over the drawing, his eyes shining again as he drew the legs, the feet, and the trunk, using short strokes to show the hair and fur. Tao leaned forward, watching closely. Slowly, the rough picture of a mammoth began to take shape as the old man sketched in the curved tusks and the small beady eyes. You must do this over and over, said Graybeard. That is the way you learn. But I must warn you, rub out your image as soon as you are finished. Graybeard stood up and erased the drawing with the toe of his deerskin sandal. Now I must go to the camp of your people, he said. Tonight there will be a celebration and the ritual of the hunt. Since he was not a chosen one, Tao could not go, and he was sorry to see Graybeard leave. There was so much more he wanted to know. He got up, not looking directly at the old man. I will go with you part of the way, he said. They climbed down the ledge with the sun shining in their eyes and started out along the foot of the cliffs. Tao hopped along, now using his spear as a crutch, with Ram trotting at his heels. You will have to go more slowly if I am to keep up, said Graybeard, stifling a cough. Tao slowed his pace to that of the old man's. If I went to the mountain people, he said, maybe they would accept me as a cave painter. The old man stopped. He shook his head. You do not understand, he said. The mountain people, the lake people, the valley people, they are all the same. Their life is filled with magic, taboos, and evil spirits. If you cross the river into their land, you will not be welcome. Yet you travel from clan to clan with no harm, said Tao. I have told you, I was born into the spirit world through my father. Now I can go where I please and do magic. By striking stones together, I can make fire. By rubbing a dab of mud on a skin hut, I can make a barren woman bring forth a child. By drawing the outline of a beast on a cave wall, I can bring good hunting. They walked on in silence, with Tao deep in thought. Then he said, even though you can do all these things, are you saying it is not true? It is not really magic? Graybeard shrugged and tugged at his beard. I do not know, he said. Perhaps it is nothing more than words. Perhaps it is nothing more than shadows. Yet I am sure it brings hope to the people and boldness to the hunters. Many times the things I foretell do not happen. The people never question it. If the thing I foretell comes to pass, they are happy. One thing I know, if they wish to call it magic, then let it be so. If I try to tell them otherwise, they will be angry. Here, said Graybeard, stopping once again, I will show you something they call magic. He reached into his deerskin pouch and took out a flat, round object. He held it in the palm of his hand, and it glistened in the sunlight like silver fire. This is a shining stone, he said. It was dug out of the earth and polished in the sand by my father many summers ago. They were standing in the open with the blazing sun high in the west. Graybeard walked slowly around the boy, flashing the sunlight off the glittering stone. Suddenly he pointed it directly at Tao's voice. The boy threw up his hands, his eyes blinded by the light. Graybeard smiled and placed the shining stone back into the deerskin pouch. You see, it is not magic. It is only the power of the sun, nothing more. A long time ago, it saved me from an angry bear. When they reached the edge of the oak forest, Tao slowed his steps. It is best if I stop here, he said. I cannot take Ram into camp, and it would be dangerous to go too close. The old man agreed. He hummed softly and began to make ready his magic. He opened his leather pouch and brought out an ivory amulet and a necklace of bear's teeth and put them around his neck. From under his robe, he took out a bison horn. He raised it to his lips and blew a long, trumpeting blast that echoed through the forest. The effort produced a spasm of coughs. I can no longer blow as long or as loud as I used to, he said. Then he looked down at Tao and smiled, a sly twinkle in his deep blue eyes. Now I am ready. Tao watched the old man disappear into the oak forest. He heard the trumpet blare again and again. He knew the women and children would go into hiding and the camp would become deathly still. As Graybeard entered the clearing, the hunters would gather around, waiting for him to speak, eager for word of the coming hunt and news of other clans. Then, as it became dark, the rituals would begin. Tao and Ram returned to the little cave, where the boy placed some kindling in the circle of stones that was his hearth. He blew on the live embers from the old fire, and soon had the flames dancing again. He fed Ram, then, squatting on his heels, he brewed up some birch tea and roasted pieces of squirrel meat on a stick. When he was finished, he stretched out on his bearskin robe and stared into the fire. He remembered 5 summers past, when he was still a child. He was peering through the opening of Kala's skin hut when he first saw Graybeard in the light of the big fire, speaking to the hunters. "Hunters of the valley people," Graybeard had shouted, "the great beasts are coming back. The spotted horses and the tarpans will soon be here. The bison will cross the high plains. The red deer will gather in the spruce wood." His voice was clear and loud then. "We must be brave and strong. We must run as fast as the deer and throw our spears straight. Then there will be much meat and skins to cover our bodies and warm our women and children in the winter. Let us go now into the secret cavern and make images to please the spirits of the great beasts." The men listened and became restless and eager to go. Some of them stood up, chanting and singing. Others began to dance, their ivory amulets and bone bracelets jingling and flashing in the firelight. One played a simple flute made of a hollow bone with a hole drilled on top. He shuffled around the fire, playing the same 2 notes over and over as the hunters continued their dance. Tao had seen Graybeard climb up the path to the entrance of the big cave, followed by the hunters, carrying spears and torches. Then he could see them no more, but he knew they went far back through the winding, twisting tunnels of the cliffs and into the secret cavern. There, together with a few of the chosen ones, Graybeard painted images of the great beasts and asked the blessing of the spirits of the hunt. Tao remembered what happened the next day, too. The hunters went out into the spruce forest and up onto the highest plains and across the valley to meet the great beasts. They were gone for 4 days. They brought back much food and skins from which to make clothing, and bones and horns to make tools and ornaments. Some of the young men came back as brave hunters. Some came back with terrible wounds, and 2 did not come back at all. The day after that, there was another ceremony. This time it was sad, and there was much crying and wailing. All right. So, that is that. Yeah, I think you're good. Your homework tonight is just to read independently for 25 minutes and maybe look over the book order information. Go to that website. I hope you guys have an amazing, beautiful day. I will see you tomorrow. And that is that. Bye.